I'm Pamela McElry from KettlebellAthletics.com and CrossFitPhilly.com. Today I'm going to go over a couple kettlebell windmill variations for you. Everyone's pretty familiar that most windmills are in this overhead position here, but we're going to do some starting from the ground, incorporating in the overhead ones also, which is going to help people with limited shoulder flexibility to start and even limited hamstring flexibility. So first what I'm going to do, or what you want your clients to do, is you always want to make sure that your upper arm, regardless of it being a low windmill or a high windmill, is always overhead and locked out and vertical, so that when you're down in this windmill position, it stays perpendicular to the floor. And it's going to stay in the same line as this back leg. So this leg's always vertical as well. It's not, you're never leaning like this, or back, or up to the side. So the first variation is the low windmill. Again, we're going to stand with our feet slightly angled. Both feet don't have to be in the same exact direction. You can have one, it doesn't have to be an exact science here. You're going to sit back with this hip a little bit, cock it, and you're going to fold down at the hips here. If you were to put your hand in here, you'd feel the crease. So let's put our hand up overhead, come down, feel for this kettlebell, and we're always going to look up at this hand in preparation for going the waist overhead. You're going to use your glute and stand up and extend the hip. Back down and back up. So notice, even though there's no weight overhead, I'm not allowing this arm to wiggle all the way around. It stays in control. Perfect. The low windmill. Next, we're going to move on to the traditional high windmill. So you're going to clean and press the kettlebell overhead, or you can snatch it, whichever is more comfortable for you. Feet stay in that same basic stance as we had for the low windmill. This hip's going to go back. We're going to fold at the hips, keeping this upper arm perfectly vertical, along with the back leg. You can use your glute, extend the hip, and stand up. So sometimes you'll find that when you first start, this is all the further you're going to get, limited range of motion. Anywhere in between is fine. If you practice them, you'll have great flexibility. You can also do it with your hand behind your back. Bring your shoulder to your knee. Always keep your eye on the kettlebell so you know where it is. High windmill. Next, we're going to combine the two together. So you're going to need two kettlebells. One's going to stay low, one's going to stay high. This is really, really great for a beginning exercise. In the beginning of a workout, I should say. So again, you need to clean and press the one kettlebell overhead. Having a kettlebell in the lower position here is going to decrease the range of motion that you have from the high windmill, but really taxing your core by moving twice as much weight here. Keep it under control. Everything stays in the same positioning as in the first two. So you'll notice I didn't go as far down on that one because the kettlebell's closer to my body than the floor is. Lastly, we're going to do the two hands anyhow. This one's pretty complicated. You don't want to start anybody really off of this unless they're spectacular. See, I'm out of breath already. But you're going to start off in that same positioning as the double windmill. So we're here. What's going to happen is we're going to come down into a windmill. You're going to reach for this lower kettlebell, and you're going to curl it up to your shoulder. Stand up with it. Press it overhead. Here. Lower it back down. Do the windmill down. And lower it to the ground. One more time. Curl it up to your shoulder. Stand up. Press it overhead. Lower it to your shoulder. Windmill back down. Uncurl it. You're going to stand up here. Not lower the kettlebell until you've stood up. Bring it down to the ground. So there's 4 variations for you, starting off with the easiest and ending up with the lowest. And finally, one last movement that I want to go over after your dog snorts with the windmill is something that we came up with here that we use quite frequently, is a lunging windmill. So instead of staying stationary, we're going to start lunging. So instead of starting with this one overhead, we're going to start with this one in the rack position from a clean. And you're going to do a diagonal lunge here. And as you come up out of your lunge, you're going to press overhead. Here your feet are going to be a little bit closer probably than what you're used to in regular windmill stands. But all of the rest of your body pattern movement stays the same. Up, lower it, step again into a lunge. Don't fall over. Press up overhead. Windmill, and back down. So there's a lot of variations that you can do with the windmill. One thing that I found when you're teaching people how to do windmills from the very beginning, after you get past the low windmill, is that when they're up high, they still don't get the whole theory of keeping your arm locked out and vertical. They want to lean to the side and forward, and we all know that's really bad for shoulder health. So one thing that we do, you could really use anything. We just use some PVC pipe here. It might seem a little awkward at first, but you're just going to hold it behind the rack like this with this arm straight, vertical overhead, and you're going to have them practice doing the windmill this way. So they're going to be pulling on the bottom part of this PVC while they're keeping their arm vertical, and they're not going to be able to go around like this. And if they do, you can easily adjust it on them. This will get them in the practice of proper form. Plus it's a great stretch too. So there you have it, all of our windmill variations. Again, I'm Pamela McElroy, kettlebellathletics.com and CrossFitPhilly.com. Thank you.